obviously those Liquigas guys, they've got a great opportunity today with Basso in the group behind to just show themselves here at the front if they've got good form. I'd imagine one of the others is probably Agnoli, the other Italian
He's also
rider.
very good, yeah.
But I think, yeah, it's going to be the usual suspects in this last climb. We've already seen them all coming to the front on the first category a few kilometres ago. So the likes of Scarponi, Cunego, De Luca, Kreuziger, they're all looking very strong. It's going to be the usual ones up there.
Group of 2 now chasing from the second group to try and get over to the front group. That is because I would imagine neither of these teams have a rider in the front group. And Director Sportive, in both cases, it's Giovanni Elena. It's Matteo Rabottini. He's come. Difficult to tell riders when you see them from behind, no numbers visible very easily and so forth. But Rabottini 101, and Feline just ahead of him. Those two teams, Androni and Farnese Vini, probably lacking in firepower in the front group, and I would imagine the Director Sportives have said get across if you can.
Yeah, well, Farnese having a difficult race over. I think they were one of the teams who only started with 7 riders in the first place. Also lost a rider yesterday during the team time trial. Must have been a crash that wasn't on camera, I'd imagine, because he started the team time trial but didn't finish. Another rider from them, I'm just trying to look at my notes whilst looking at the TV screen, but they had another rider that didn't finish today, I believe, or at least didn't take the start. I'll have to confirm that in a minute. So they're down to 5 riders from what I can gather already, so they'll be unlikely to be represented in this front group, hence why, as you said, we've seen the 2 of them trying to get across on the descent here.
Roberto De Patri.
De Luca is that De Luca in the second group, so that explains why his teammate was drilling it so hard there.
Roberto De Patri, I think, was the rider who didn't start for Farnese Vini today. At 37, Janez Brajkovič is here as well, so we've got Brajkovič and Kanget just behind. There's Agnoli for Liquigas. Agnoli is another one of those very, very good workers. He's always working for a team leader. Again, capable of a victory himself if he was given the chance.
Oh, more than capable. I mean, we saw him at San Remo. He was the first guy to kind of light it up the Poggio. Just because that was the team plan, you know, they wanted to soften everyone up and give Nibali a springboard. So he's more than capable of getting a big result on his own. And as I said, today is really the perfect chance for him to show himself. He hasn't got a big leader here in the front group to work for, so he can just look after himself, as can Szmyd if he's in this group, and go for the result themselves.
I don't see Szmyd in that front group.
No, I haven't seen him actually either.
Feline and Rabottini are going to be brought back by the Group 2 on the road. Clearly decided they're not going to make much more of a gap. But Feline looking in good shape.
One of the riders who had to find a new team at the last minute last year after Geox.
That's right, yep. That's where we saw him before, getting some decent results in the Vuelta, actually. We saw Fabio Feline getting away and being in a couple of breaks. Not when he was just a year before, actually, because he's been with Geox a couple of years when it was Fuji Cerveto.
It didn't really help his team going away on the descent there, because you can see them all chasing on the front, so they must have their team leaders in that second group. It would have been almost better really for him to stay there and help the chase if Rujano, for example, was in that second group, which I think I saw him with the black knee warmers a minute ago.
Is it me, or does Ivan look like he's carrying a bit?
It's hard to tell, isn't it?
It is hard to tell. He doesn't look super ripped, does he? It's very difficult to tell. But he's clearly not liking today. There's no doubt about that.
7 kilometres to go then, so they'll be pretty much hitting this last climb up to the finish very soon. In fact, I think the front group may well already be on the lower slopes. So it's interesting to see how many Astana domestiques there are still left to really drive it at the bottom there. They obviously made their intentions clear, which probably partly to get rid of this group behind. Obviously, I think that is Rujano there in second place on the miniature bike.
There's Rujano is meeting. He's missed out on the move. The other rider, 1, 2, 3, 4 back, is José Serpa. And this is a war of attrition today, Dan. There's a lot of riders here suffering. Again, this is a race without radios in it, so there's a lot of movement around the place, and riders having to rely on their wits and a bit more of their racing knowledge, and there's splits occurring all over the place.
Well, the weather has played a huge factor, I think, today. Under normal circumstances, you know, blue skies and slightly warmer temperatures, it could well have been a group of 60, 70 coming to the bottom here today, but Astana set their stalls out early and made sure they were all at the front for the top of that climb, ready for the descent, which is very technical, and they've split it down there and got rid of a lot of the favourites, so Kreuziger's got less people to watch out for on this final climb. But yeah, over the top of that, when there was an acceleration, somebody going for the GPM points, he was just sat in the saddle, accelerated in the saddle, and it's always a sign to me that you know, somebody's on top form when they don't even need to kind of get out of the saddle and sprint to keep up on an acceleration.
Nice shots over and over again of young Mr. Basso looking in trouble.
You're right, Schmidt's not there, is he?
No, I don't think he is. That looks like Betancur in the middle for Aqua Sapone, rather than, and we say De Luca has been dropped in the second group of the day. Interesting to know who they're going to liquid gas will play for here. They've got a free hand totally. Salerno's there, Agnoli is there. You'd have to say it was one of those two who probably have a better chance today than anybody else. 1 minute and 5 seconds is the gap between Group 1 being driven on by Astana and the Group 2 on the road, containing 2 or 3 big favourites. De Luca also in there, Ivan Basso. This is Group 1 on the road.
4 from AG2R, I think, are counted.
Yeah, right at the back. We were saying earlier, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them had managed to get there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wow.
5.
That's impressive after quite a dismal team time trial yesterday from that team.
Will be interesting to see who is in there. The team: Gadret, Berard, Bonafont, Dupont, Gazvoda, Monteguti, Pergine, and Roche.
As the Grand Tours draw closer, the riders head to Turkey in a bid to hit form, whilst Team Sky send the big guns to Romandy, as Wiggins and Cavendish build on their impressive start to the season.
And away he goes. He's trying to ride away. There's still time.
The Tour of Turkey Sunday at 4 p.m. and the Tour of Romandy Tuesday 3:15 p.m. live on British Eurosport.
Discover this month's great sporting events available on the Eurosport Player mobile application. So you don't miss out on any of the action, the mobile app gives you full live streaming access to British Eurosport and British Eurosport 2. Watch your favourite sports and stay connected when you're on the move. Because sport never stops, Eurosport Player is also available on Mac and PC. Eurosport Player, all sports, all emotions.
Good move by Nicholas Roche. He's made it into that front group. He's suffering, or at least the shot we saw just there, he was right in the centre of the shot.
It's a shame for them that they didn't pull out a better team time race. I mean, they were 14th position, or 4th from last in in effect only 10 seconds away from last place. And although you know you're not going to win it, and as I said earlier, Tirreno Adriatico, Nibali pulled back a lot of time which Liquid Gas lost in the team time trial. It's still important, you know, not to lose 50 seconds like they did yesterday, because they've got 5 guys here, but you know, a lot of time really to make up on those front runners.
Here we go. The men from Astana have done their job. Kevin Sildre is there. You can see he has this sort of weaving style on the bike. He just moves the bike a lot underneath him. At the front, just
the
pushing
second
on.
group, I guess, with Pozzovivo in second place, so they're pushing on, still trying to catch the front group. De Luca there. I'm surprised to see De Luca there. Because, over the top of that first category, he was right near the front, and he's certainly not a bad descender. As you said, we saw him almost going off the front on the descent at the start, but they're really pushing on here. Pozzovivo's going to have his work cut out to get back to this front group, who are still being led by Astana. Brajkovič.
1 minute and 5 seconds was the gap, and I think they've beginning to maybe cut that down a little bit. Are these is this the group that's just, has it split up? Is this the group we were watching just now on our screens? This is the Colnago team. Pozzovivo taking up the chase. He knows he has to, because they're now on the final slopes of the day, and Lampre have taken over the work on the front. The men who were driving on from Astana, Tenel Kanget, and it was Kevin Sildrez at the time, were now have just dropped themselves off. Cunego looking in good shape here. Damiano Cunego just ahead of Roman Kreuziger. Kreuziger wearing the green climbers jersey there.
It's Marco Mazzano on the front for Lampre now. Great domestique to have in the climbs. Really another one of those really small Italian climbs which you see so much of on these types of stages. So yeah, a number of teams very well represented in that front group. As I said, four from Lampre, 5 from AG2R, who we'll see some attacks from soon, I expect.
This is panic. This is panic by Pozzovivo. Pozzovivo has missed the move, and he's having to chase on by himself now. The 2 men from Astana are just going to sit in there, and that's Szmyd. Szmyd realizes he's got to come across as well, if he possibly can. Pozzovivo is going to push on. Pozzovivo is going to burn himself to bits if he's not very careful. De Luca is in the wheel. He's missed the move, so he's just going to sit there. And it looks like he's suffering, Danilo De Luca. But Colnago CSF have suddenly pushed the panic button. Pozzovivo has gone off the front, and that's destroyed that second group completely down.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost Pozzovivo just on his own, so a big mistake from him not to be at the front for that descent, because he's obviously on good form. He's dropped the rest of the group completely, the likes of Basso, Szmyd trying to get back on the wheel, De Luca struggling. He really should have been here. He had a great chance to win this race overall, particularly with the steep climb we've got coming up tomorrow.
It's the weather in the descent again, though, Dan. He doesn't like it.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for him to bridge this gap. As you said, it was up to a minute. It looks like 7 seconds was the last time gap, but now, you know, Lampre taking up the pace on the front too. Pinotti there is the BMC rider. He's done well to stay near the front on his comeback from injury last year.
Marc de Maar is in there, the Curaçao champion. Extraordinary.
United Healthcare will be pleased with that, to get someone in this front group.
Absolutely, as will NetApp. They have a man in there as well, with Lampre now pushing on. Both Cunego and Scarponi are in there. Cunego's in good shape. They've got 2 cards to play, of course. Scarponi will just keep himself under a little bit of wraps. His big aim now is for the Giro d'Italia. Pozzovivo looking in such good shape. He's just destroyed everybody. He's ridden them off the wheel.
Well, he must be close. He's in the team cars. He's gone past Lampre, which must be these cars must be behind the front group. It just depends on how many people have just got dropped off the back, and whether the commissaires have kept these cars behind a few guys. But he's certainly looking good, just going past Sildrez a few minutes ago.
Kevin Sildrez is looking at him going, well, why weren't you there in the first place? Look at this. He's just accelerating past team cars. Pozzovivo from the Colnago CSF Inox team is just riding between one group and this front group. Nicholas Roach is also in this front group. Carlos Betancur is the leading Aqua Sapone rider in there. There he is in your shot. He's another one I wouldn't put past today, Dan. He's just sitting. To me, he looks calm, he looks in good shape, but he's sitting about 7 or 8 back, keeping out of all sorts of any sort of trouble. He's not doing any work at all. Carlos Betancur in the red helmet there, the white jersey. I think he might go for one a bit later.
He could well do. He was up there in the lead group at Bonino the other day on Sunday. He reminds me actually of not Wegman, sorry, the other Gerdeman, yeah, on the bike. He looks very similar the way he kind of nods his head about and upper body moving slightly.
Yeah, but I knew immediately who you meant as soon as you said it. Yeah, Linus Gerdeman. Although his head doesn't bob around quite so much as Gerdeman. This is Domenico Pozzovivo.
What do you reckon that gap is? It's probably, it must be down to 20-30 seconds. I mean, it always looks shorter, of course, in the climbs, but I mean, he's done a great job to get across if he makes it. You know, when you see the likes of Astana drilling it and now Lampre going hard on the front, but you know, he didn't need to use that energy. If he'd just been in that front group on the descent, then you know, he'd be odds on for the stage victory today.
Well, the way he's climbing, that's for sure. But he's going to leave a lot of it on the road. All that energy, when we say leave it on the road, all that energy that it's taken for him to make the gap, to get across, he won't have much left in the tank for when they fire off to get the stage victory, and that then they will surely do. Nicholas Roach sitting in here. He's been suffering a little bit from injury. My word, look at this. He's really riding up fast. Nicholas Roach hasn't been in the best of shape, and he's made this front group, which is good, but he looks like he's really suffering.
I think a few of the guys up there on their limit now, as Lampre, Forge on at the front, and Kreuziger, as we mentioned earlier, looking almost the most comfortable to me of the people that we've seen. Is it BMC Rider about to attack, or?
Certainly riding up towards the front. BMC.
Not particularly steep this climb, so if Pozzovivo does manage to get on in the next kilometre or so, he can get a bit of a sit in the wheels out of the wind. You can see the speed they're going.
Scarponi's going to turn the wick up on this, I think, in a minute. Pushing a lighter gear than he normally does, Michele Scarponi. Kreuziger looking absolutely with no problems at all, just sitting, and now you can see that Nico Roche is slipping towards the back of this group as the pace goes up a little bit, already looking as though he was on the edge, and now beginning to suffer.
Two BMC riders, Frank and Pinotti, will be doing their absolute best to stay in this group. Of course, they won the team time trial yesterday, so as long as they stay on the same time or within a few seconds of the people that crossed the line first today, of course there is time bonuses that finish 10, 6 and 4. They'll go into the leader's jersey.
Mathias Frank is the BMC rider sitting in the wheel tracks of Liquigas there. Marvellous ride by Marc de Maar to get into this group. He's a pretty experienced rider and knows where he should be at the right time. He's managed to catch the record, but to cling on over that bad weather, he doesn't mind that sort of stuff, though. He's a big, powerful rider. Can tolerate that weather pretty well. Two net-up riders in the front here, by the look of it. That's very good for the small German outfit. They've been invited to some nice races this year, this being one of them. They're at Milan-San Remo. Well, who are Liquigas actually working for here?
Lampre. I imagine it must be...
I think it's going to be Capecchi.
Yeah, number 13 there.
Eros Capecchi, number 13, looks by far the most comfortable of the Liquigas men as Roche moves up once more towards the front. The Lampre men are really trying hard up. There we go. Liquigas now taking up some pace setting at the front. That's going to string him out once again. Kreuziger just looks so comfortable. Mind you, I've got to say that Cunego looks good as well. It's just that they're so close together. Cunego sitting on the wheel of Michele Scarponi, the taller of the two riders in the pink and the blue. Just behind is Roman Kreuziger. He turns over a big gear and just sitting there, Dan. Doesn't look like he's suffering at all.
No, he's out of the saddle now, but he's, for me, he's looking the most comfortable. Of course, he's got the advantage that they finished second in the team time trial yesterday, so, you know, in fact, all he has to do really today is follow the big test that's coming tomorrow on that steep climb to the finish. The gaps are obviously not going to be too big today as they're coming up to the last 500-600 metres, so it's all about the stage winner. But, of course, as I said, bonus seconds available at the finish, 10, 6 and 4, and they're going to be very important for the likes of Scarponi, Cunego here to take some of that time back.
Well, Roach has still been hanging in. You can see his head and shoulders bobbing around, head slightly to the right. Betancur lying in a 4th spot at the moment. Capecchi looks dangerous for me as well, just lying behind Betancur. At the moment, it's Michele Scarponi setting the pace, bigger gear. Damiano Cunego looks behind him, who's in good shape during Amstel Gold until he collided with Lars Petter Nordhaug of Sky. Again, another big gear rider just behind that is Roman Kreuziger. Looks very, very good. He can turn in a fairly good uphill charge with 500 meters to go. Still too far out at the moment. Carlos Betancur, that smaller gear in the white with the red helmet, lying at 4th back. Then Eros Capecchi. Now they're all beginning to fight behind to see who's going to get in the right place. Jean Gadret moves up a little bit. Nice to see Rujano in this group. I thought they didn't have somebody in here, but they do. Androni.
He goes Kreuziger. Cunego straight on the wheel, and you wouldn't bet against him coming into the last 300 meters. He's going to have a good kick on him, but Kreuziger's really put in a big dig. He's got a slight gap over Cunego now.
Yeah, Kreuziger winding up that big gear. Cunego still waiting, 200 meters. He's going to go past. Betancur's on his wheel, though. They've got to watch out for this. Capecchi is distanced a little bit. Betancur still looks like he's got a bit of a sprint to give. He's got through on the inside at the moment as Cunego drives for the line. 50 meters to go. Still in the wheel track is Carlos Betancur. Oh, he's been blocked a little bit. Oh, he didn't like that at all. Cunego gets the win. Betancur gets 2nd. Kreuziger 3rd. Capecchi 4th. Looks like Nico Roach made it about 5th or 6th there. Marc de Maar comes over the line. Scarponi comes over the line. Rujano. Gadret. Well, it's Betancur didn't like that. He looked like he was, felt he was being blocked in the line there.
Looked like Pinotti, I think, coming over as the first BMC rider in around about 6th place, so he should be just about in the leader's jersey still. Kreuziger getting 3rd place, so a 4-second time bonus, but they had a reasonable lead overnight coming into this stage, so he'll be pleased to go into that jersey. But good sprint by Cunego, went from a reasonable way out.
Pozzovivo comes over the line. He did leave most of it on the road, I am afraid. The energy went away from him towards the end. He was almost within striking distance, and he just couldn't make the charge up towards the top. Salerno has tacked onto this group of 3 Androni riders, including José Serpa has just come over the line. Didn't quite see if Rujano was in there. They all look too big for Rujano.
Bit of a damage limitation, as I said, for Pozzovivo today, but I don't think it's all lost for him. He's, I mean, looking at the way that he almost got across to that group from the lower slopes, he closed a reasonable gap when there was, you know, the likes of Lamprey still driving things on the front. And as I said, tomorrow's such a huge steep climb coming to the finish. It's really going to suit somebody like Pozzovivo, who's 53, 54 kilos when it comes up to those 20% climbs.
Ivan Basso being leading home this little group, including Pierre Honlin. Best young rider in the Tour last year. Cyril Gauthier comes over, another very good climber for Europe Cup. And some riders still really suffering. Now let's have a look at this finish. Kreuziger leads out. I don't think he was ever going to get the better of Cunego in this sort of situation. Cunego comes around. Betancur gets onto his wheel. And gets through on the inside nicely there. Just takes that gap, still in a good position. Cunego not looking over his shoulder. Betancur trying to come around the outside. No, that's. I think Betancur's just chancing his arm there.
I'm not sure what he was complaining about, to be honest. Well,
I think he got a bit of an overlapping wheel with Damiano Cunego there, and felt as though he'd come across over the front of his line and was trying to take his front wheel out. I think he's just chancing his arm, frankly, having seen that there was a little bit of a problem in Amstel Gold. You think, you know, in those sort of situations, Dan, you've seen riders do this when they know they're not going to win. They'll raise an arm, just try and make some sort of gesture.
Well, there's always 2 points of view, and he obviously felt he was impeded slightly, but yeah, from my point of view, Cunego just did, he didn't go off his line really at all, and Betancur had every chance to go around him if he had the strength. I think he just didn't quite have the legs there at the finish. Yep,
I would agree with you. I would agree that's a legs problem, not a deviation of line problem. Damiano Cunego takes the win at the finish on stage 2. at Sant'Orsola Terme after 152 kilometers of fine wind. Here we go. Let's have a look at this overhead shot once more. The man who missed out there is Eros Capecchi on the right-hand side of your shot. He's just impeded a little bit by the progress of Damiano Cunego and Carlos Betancur, but didn't really have much of the legs. He's still in contact at this point. Pinotti, you can see fighting away just behind. Cunego goes around the outside of Roman Kreuziger. Betancur still looking good at this point, nicely committed, goes through the inside line there. And this is the run up to the line. He gets around the outside. There's just the tiniest of movements from Cunego, nothing at all to worry about. Betancur, a little bit of crying over nothing there.
He'd already looked over his shoulder to check that he was going to stay second before he started waving his arm about in complaint.
Absolutely. But still a good result for Carlos Betancur. I think I'm interested to see how Pozzovivo will go. Thursday's the big test. Seeing him climb today, Dan, I wouldn't put it past him to just romp away from people if he's got the form on Thursday.
No, it's going to be a really interesting stage tomorrow, as we said. First time that tomorrow's climb has been used in a professional race, and it looks just absolutely horrific from the pictures that we've seen, and the profile of the climb averaging around about 15% for a good 8 kilometers with some stretches at 20%. It's definitely going to be an evening where the mechanics are going to have to change around the gear ratios even for these pro riders. It's absolutely, as I said, looks like a horrific climb.
May well be some compacts coming on, one would think. Damiano Cunego wins the stage ahead of Carlos Betancur, Roman Kreuziger, Eros Capecchi, Francesco Reda, good result from him. Hubert Dupont, Mathias Frank was in fact the first man from BMC to come over the line in the same time. So Mathias Frank
done a good ride there. He was at 3 seconds there, 9 seconds then to Marc de Maar. So yeah, he'll be in the leader's jersey now, which is a really good ride from the Swiss rider. But I can see, who Lamprey are working for. Scarponi really working on the front hard for Cunego and then dropping back slightly at the finish.
You could be owed £3,000 or more, so call PPI Claimback today on 0800 083 0800 to claim back your missold PPI.
Want to get more from your laptop?
I've just got a laptop and I've been told that I should back up my files.
Basically don't know how to use the laptop.
I know how to turn it on.
What about security?
Wi-Fi.
Pop-ups.
Reliability.
I need to get more informed.
At which, we've used our expertise to put together a really useful, easy-use laptop guide. It's in plain English and has all sorts of tips to help you do more with your laptop.
Just what I need.
This is a really good start.
Cannot be any simpler.
Call Which on 0800 380 380 for your free laptop guide. It's packed with useful advice, like setting up your laptop properly, protecting it from viruses, emailing photos, mobile broadband, and a jargon buster to help you understand the techie stuff.
Very much plain English.
And very simple to use.
Call 0800 380 380 now for your free, easy-use laptop guide.
It's a free guide.
Of course, you don't get much free nowadays, do you?
It's always good to get something for nothing.
Looks like a good guide.
Taking it home with me right now.
I'm More Than Friedman. Here's a short, sweet story. Buy car insurance from the good folks at More Than, and you could get a free courtesy car as standard. Best of all, call and switch today, and they'll promise to beat your renewal premium. Thank you for listening. Call More Than now on 0800 300 811.
Good afternoon, this is Giro del Trentino, stage 3. You are watching, not live, this is what happened about 20 minutes ago, because they have been absolutely motoring today. We'll make no bones about it. They outrun our scheduling system. So we're bringing you all the action from 20 kilometers to go. They have been averaging well over 45 kilometers an hour today. A breakaway went away a little bit earlier, and they were brought back within half distance of today's 167.8 kilometer stage. Everybody up for it today. It's a dreadful finish, and that is what we're going to bring you all the action from the climb up to the top of Ponte Veleno. Never used before and incredibly difficult. Yesterday's winner, Damiano Cunego, said he's already been out here recceing this climb because nobody's seen it before, so a lot of the big names came to see it. He said it's absolutely dreadful. It's worse in his opinion than the Zoncolan, and that legendary climb from the Giro d'Italia, which we see so often. Just people are in bits on the Zoncolan, and it will be the same here on the Veleno. It's not a short one either. It's a 10-kilometer climb. Most of it is over 10%. It's fairly shallow at the top and fairly shallow at the bottom, but other than that, it's a complete nightmare to climb. Dan Lloyd is in the commentary box next to me, no mean climber himself, and it looks, we've seen lots and lots and lots of people reconnoitering it, and it looks dreadful, Dan.
Yeah, we've been watching the couple of YouTube clips. I think Colombia Col de Ports actually went up this climb much earlier in the season, and for a bunch of climbers to be struggling and zigzagging up the road as much as they were, or as much as you can zigzag on a road that narrow, just goes to show exactly how steep this is. And as you said, a lot of people comparing it to Zoncolan, or even saying it's harder. All the mechanics having to change the equipment of the riders' bikes today to account for the steepness of this climb, because they just probably wouldn't get up it on the gears that they normally run. So Roach saying that he's on 36.28, and a lot of other riders on a similar gear, or even easier in some cases. So especially the start of this climb, it's very narrow from quite a big road, so positioning is going to be reasonably important. Otherwise you could, even in a group like we see here, which is 50-60 strong still, you could be almost at a standstill coming into that right turn where they start the climb.
Yeah, it's pretty much, there's plenty of availability. If you want to check out the climb itself, just get on the internet and have a good look. But the weather, thank goodness, is okay here, but it's very, very cold at the top of the climb itself, the Veleno. And they've been really drilling it today, Dan. I mean, what, 48 kilometers an hour for the first 2 hours of racing? I mean, that's extraordinarily fast. And they've sort of shed, what, half the peloton already? There's still a big group together.
It's been a very hard day. It's much different than I expected it to be run today. I mean, looking at the profile, it's not been really hard before this last climb. I was expecting to see a very, very big group coming in towards this this steep finish that we've got. But as you said, a group of 5 going very early on. Monteguti from Age 2R, Feline from Androni, Bart from Netap, Vila from Utensa Nord, and Frapporti from Idea. But I think it was Champion Systems that were chasing behind. Not sure the exact reason for that, but as you said, they caught them midway or just after midway through the stage and before that that climb that we saw about 30 kilometers ago. So it meant it's very hard, because Colnago went straight to the front on that penultimate GPM, really strung the field out and got rid of a lot of people. And I think the idea behind that was just because Pozzovivo has these troubles being so small of positioning himself, and that's obviously, as we were saying, so crucial coming into a climb like this. So thinned the field down, so it should be slightly easier for him to enter this climb in a good position.
Yeah, the GPM, the second category climb at 117 kilometers, 3 Colnago riders, Colnago CSF Inox riders, to give them their full title, went over the top first. Brambilla, Pozzovivo and Locatelli in that order. They pick up the points, but they're really concerned about just keeping people up the front, making sure that Pozzovivo doesn't get dropped. I mean, the big question is, did Pozzovivo leave it all on the road yesterday? And I think a lot of these teams as well, just driving on as hard as they can, knowing that little riders like Pozzovivo are going to have trouble with these bigger guys here, like the Liquigas chaps. Vernotti on the front, hands over the bars, just pushing the pace along. Paolo Longo Borghini behind him. Finished a stage, I think, where was it, in Brest or something, with 5 riders. many years ago in the Tour. It was an out-and-out sprint, a neck-and-neck sprint between Romain Fayeux and Samuel Dumoulin. And Longo Borghini was one of those riders in that particular breakaway. That's Kevin Reza of Europe Cup.
Yeah, a bit of a big mistake in my opinion from Pozzovivo yesterday, letting the or not being positioned well enough on that descent where it all split coming into the finish. He was already over a minute down on starting that last climb. They valiant effort to you know, to get back up to the leaders, but by the time
is it a valiant effort though? I mean, do you think he's still got the legs today? I mean, it's such a stiff climb today, and we've got the Passo Podoi tomorrow as well. It's not as if he's obviously was in the wrong place at the wrong time to start with, but do you then commit yourself to chase and limit your losses, or do you just hang back and say, okay, I'm going to lose a couple of minutes, but I will take that back on the climbs?
I think he had to go for it. I mean, they did such a good team time trial. That was the most disappointing thing. I mean, a much better team time trial from Colnago than I think anybody was really expecting. I think third or fourth on the stage, losing very little time to the overall favourites, or if anything, actually an advantage over the likes of Scarponi, Cunego, etc. So I think he had to limit his losses yesterday. He you know, couldn't quite get across that group, and when they started sprinting to the line or increasing the pace in the last 1 or 2 kilometres, that gap went back up. I think he finished around about 53 seconds down. But a climb like today is not, you're not going to get a climb that's more suited to a rider like Pozzovivo. I mean, I don't know exactly what he weighs, but can't be more than 55, 56 kilograms. He's absolutely tiny. So on a really steep gradient like we're going to see in a few kilometres time, there's you know, there's not really anyone that's going to stop him except maybe the likes of Rujano, in my opinion.
Rujano, well, Rujano, has he got the legs? Yesterday he was caught out. He's another rider who was caught out yesterday. Yeah. And a lot of these tiny little climbers are not particularly au fait with positioning themselves. I don't think Pozzovivo can sometimes. He doesn't like the bad weather, and his descending is not fantastic. Rujano, on the other hand, I just think he gets caught out a lot. Again, tactically, they know how to climb, but all the other bits in between somehow are a little bit difficult. Rujano, it can surprise a lot of people sometimes. He's very strong, even when he's not on the very steep stuff, but definitely caught out yesterday with José Serpa and Rubiano pushing like crazy to try and get him back. And they're not hanging about. Riders here just sort of hanging on at the back.
Yeah, they're really drilling it, assuming it's to prevent a few riders that have already been dropped on that previous climb from getting back on, and also, of course, they're wanting to position themselves well coming into this last climb, which, yeah, as I said, very, very narrow right turn straight up from this lake, and it climbs immediately, so no really room for you know, starting in 60th place and trying to get to the front once it starts. So a lot of the riders got their work cut out, and BMC already starting to come to the front with their leader, Mathias Frank, who's obviously leading overall.
Yeah, he's in the pink jersey, the leader's pink jersey, but look for the red shorts. The other pink jersey is, of course, a lamprey coming up on the left-hand side. That's Cunego. Damiano Cunego took the stage yesterday, looking in probably the best early-ish season shape I've seen for quite a while for Damiano Cunego. It's a long time now since he won the Giro d'Italia back in 2004, and he really couldn't live up to that. There's his erstwhile colleague, sometimes a bit of a rival, Michele Scarponi. Scarponi now promoted, of course, to the winner of the Giro after Alberto Contador received a ban and had that title stripped away from him. So Scarponi, a winner of the Giro d'Italia, even if it's not like the way he would like to have been. He was the one man who tried to take the fight to Alberto Contador during that Giro victory a couple of years ago, or a year ago, and just couldn't live with him on the climbs. Champion Systems now on the front. Idir got a rider just behind here. Frapporti has been active again today, as he was yesterday. But there's a lot of riders as Massimo Cadol comes to the front for Acqua Sapone, a very reliable, strong man. And we're coming into this final climb of the day. Everybody now trying to position themselves, Dan, because it's vital you get onto this sharp right-hand turn. I mean, it's a Y junction basically, and it's there on the climb here, the front cars. It's a horrible little climb, this one.
It's all about timing that that last little sprint into the climb. And if you don't know exactly where the road starts, you can time your effort wrong and get your team on the front and then be swamped by people that are fresher, that just stayed in the wheels that little bit longer. Here's the right-hand junction.
Here we go. Make sure everybody gets through okay. And as you can see, if you're in the wrong position, you're already, what, you know, 20, 30 meters back. And all the big favourites will be wanting to get towards the front. Cunego for Lamprey with the Escarpone. He looks over his shoulder to see where people are. Gadre for AG2R is here. Agnoli on the front now for Liquigas, setting a decent pace. He's got Basso sitting there pushing a larger gear in the sort of orange shades. Second spot. Szmyd just behind him. The climbing domestique from Poland, getting a little bit swamped at the moment. The men from Astana. Sildrez tries to work his way around. Roman Kreuziger will also be trying to keep himself well up to the front here. We saw him yesterday, so close. Danilo Di Luca in second spot behind Valerio Agnoli. Well, at least Di Luca's managed to get himself in the right place. Apparently punctured yesterday, which is why he lost contact. And Mathias Frank, I think he's going to be under pressure here.
Yeah, he did a very good ride yesterday. He was 6th overall, I think, at the Tour of Switzerland last year, so not a bad climber, but I don't think he's going to be right up in contention on this climb today. A bit too steep for someone like him, but it's the usual kind of suspects at the front in terms of teams here. It's you know, Liquigas, Aquin Astana, as you mentioned, all near the front, and nobody really can see from Colnago. So despite the fact that they thinned that group down on the previous KOM, they've still not managed to come into this climb with great position. So work to do already for their team leaders to get back to the front. Agnoli's
setting a decent enough pace on the front. This is the easy bit of the climb. Believe me, the first 2 kilometers are about 3 to 5%, and then it kicks up viciously. There are some, I mean, in monstrous hairpins on this climb as they turn around. There's a terrible couple of right-handers, and that will just destroy the field completely. Agnoli is setting a pretty fierce pace here on the front for Liquigas, with Di Luca turning one sprocket bigger just behind him, and then Damiano Cunego sitting third wheel at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4 men from Liquigas here. Carlos Betancur's Aqua Sapone team. He has 2 men ahead of him, and the Aqua Sapones, you can recognize them, the white, all white with the red helmets. Di Luca and Agnoli have gone off the wrong way. Oh, that's a disaster, because getting back up into that group again with the speed they're going. Pierre Rollin's just travelled past Agnoli, and is that Basso as well? Basso and Agnoli and Di Luca off the road in the wrong direction. And there's no way back on that unless you can fight your way. I mean, if you can get into a pace now as they start getting very, very steep, but the effort you have to put in to get back up to the front where they were in the first place, whatever game plan Liquigas had, that'll have to go out the window.
Well, it's a complete disaster for those riders that have gone off course. I mean, it's not just the positioning, it's everything. It's the momentum that you had, you know, turning round and just starting from a standstill again. And you know, not only have you got to get back to the front if you want to have any chance of doing well on GC and on the stage, but you've got to make your way through all of these riders on what's a, you know, extremely narrow road. So
oh, look at this road, bouncing around all over the place here. And let's watch this again. Agnoli, oh, he follows the motorbike because the motorbike goes down the wrong way. Oh, that's a disaster. He'll be cursing that moto pilot.
As the Grand Tours draw closer, the riders head to Turkey in a bid to hit form, whilst Team Sky send the big guns to Romandy, as Wiggins and Cavendish build on their impressive start to the season.
And away he goes. He's trying to ride away. There's still time.
The Tour of Turkey Sunday at 4 p.m. and the Tour of Romandy Tuesday 3:15 p.m. live on British Eurosport.
Back with the action from stage 3, the final climb up to Punta Veleno here on Giro del Trentino. The first time we've showed it on Eurosport, and what a great race it's turned out to be. Oh, look at this. This is absolutely horrible. Now we're into the real steep part of this climb, and Mathias Frank is suffering but hanging on in there.
Cunego going backwards slightly as well,
isn't it? Yeah, Pierre Roland comes up to his shoulder on the right-hand side.
I think he looked like he was just looking round for Scarponi. He's having a quick chat with him, so obviously feeling pretty good, because it was one of the few times where you actually got an idea of the steepness of this climb from camera view. So
he sent Scarponi off to do a little bit of pacing, I think, here. Oh, this is dreadfully, dreadfully steep, and the road surface is appalling. Sylvester Szmyd in the lime green of Liquigas, looking reasonably comfortable at the moment as Androni set the pace on the front. It's Jackson Rodriguez, isn't it, setting the pace on the front for Androni. Roman Kreuziger back in the colours of Astana rather than the green jersey of the King of the Mountains yesterday. And all the big names here at the front. Cunego in the pink and the blue of Lampre, with Sylvester Szmyd, the great Polish climber, in the lime green of Liquigas. Behind him in the turquoise of Astana is Roman Kreuziger, who looked so comfortable yesterday. Cunego and Kreuziger looked the most comfortable of everybody yesterday, just about. Mathias Frank is still in here in the pink jersey of the overall leader. But that looks like Rujano coming up on the right-hand side of your shot. José Rujano hits the front, and he's got Pozzovivo in his wheel, and Cunego goes with them. Dan, these are the guys we thought would really light up the blue touch paper, and they have, because these are the tiny, tiny climbers.
Yeah, these are two riders, or one of the few riders on the race today that would have been really excited about this this stage finish being so steep. As I said, you can see how small those guys are. Just look at the size of the Bianchi frame, is it, that he's using on the front there. Yeah. It's absolutely tiny bikes for these first two riders, and they weigh so little in comparison to your normal rider that it really benefits them being this steep, and you can really see the gradients. It's incredible.
That's amazing. And look at the speed they're going up at. I mean, even the big guys. Mathias Frank is not massive, but Kreuziger, he's a big guy. And you see the speed they're going. If you ever wanted some perspective on when you think you go out on your local hills that you're going quickly, look at these guys. Some of these slopes are over 20%. They're averaging about 15% in the middle of this climb. Overall, it's just about over 10%, because we've got flattish sections at the top and bottom. That's the average gradient. But these bits in the middle are between 13 and 15%, and they're just flying up it. José Rujano, the little Venezuelan climber, on the front for the Androni team, and they're stringing them out, but still more people together than I possibly expected. Another kick to come at the front.
Well, looking at the way Pozzovivo's riding here, it looks more like he's going for GC as much as the stage itself still, because obviously he could have sat in and waited a bit longer, seeing what the other riders were doing. But he's kind of pushing on here, even though there's not a huge gap, as you said, to a few of the other riders behind. But he's got 1 minute and 1 second to make up on Frank in the leader's jersey, and about 50 seconds to Cunego, who's not having too much trouble at the moment, staying on his wheel. So yeah, really work cut out if he wants to get back on GC, and still paying for that mistake of losing time yesterday. But some gaps opening up to Rujano now to sort of select group of four, with Kreuziger of Astana there in the turquoise, and here goes Pozzovivo starting to put some gaps in.
Pozzovivo stands on the pedal, starts to dance up these horrible hairpins, and he's dropping the bigger men. Schmidt's not very big, and he's beginning to suffer. Kreuziger's going brilliantly here, rides up to the wheel of Domenico Pozzovivo. Behind, over the shoulder, looks Damiano Cunego, the most threatening guy for the overall at the moment. Mathias Frank, big gap now. Rujano has completely blown a gasket here. He might be able to just gather his forces together, but it looks like he's laid it all out, and it's gone. Mathias Frank in the pink jersey, red shorts there, really beginning to struggle to try and keep going. Just behind him is Darwin Apatuma from the Colombia Col Deporte squad. They did a lot of wrecking in this particular hill. Oh,
big difference in pedalling style from the front to Frank there. It doesn't look like a huge gap, but obviously in such a steep climb when they're only pushing around 15, 16 k's an hour, it's quite a big time gap already.
Gap to Cunego beginning to occur. Cunego's got to get on the pedals and try and stay with them. This is going to really hurt. Damiano Cunego, he won all these early races in his career around this area, and he probably does know this climb.
I think he's won this race 2 or maybe 3 times already before, so he's been looking very good, and as Kreuziger yesterday we said about how good he looked sat in the saddle responding to attacks, and he's one of the bigger guys from this front group of 4 and still looking reasonably comfortable. As I say, he was struggling slightly, but the gap's really opening up, and he's sitting in the best position, second overall to Frank, 3 seconds down, so all he has to do really is keep within touching distance of Pozzovivo, especially Cunego, who's 7 seconds down overall. Time bonus is still available at the finish today, 10, 6 and 4 seconds. They will play a part between Kreuziger and Cunego, but Pozzovivo still pushing on, but no gaps to the main favourites yet.
This is probably the steepest hairpin on the entire climb, and José Rujano, this is the second group on the road, beginning to try and get himself back together again. The big hope of Androni. He's been given so many chances, this man José Rujano. He is an immensely talented climber. Just look at the gap he already starts to put into Mathias Frank in the pink leader's jersey, who I have to say is doing a fine ride here, limiting his losses as much as he can. That's all you can do when you've got a rider of the quality of Pozzovivo on the hills up ahead of you. Pozzovivo is still tapping away, and Kreuziger's in trouble. Roman Kreuziger looks like he's beginning to be in trouble, as is Carlos Betancur, who we saw yesterday looking so good. It's just too steep for Betancur here, and Mathias Frank is almost glued to his wheel, and they're just, everybody knows this feeling. Everybody knows what it's like to be in the hills and just be bent double over your bike, not being able to push it any more than virtually walking pace. And these are the best cyclists in the world. Rujano looks like he's going to topple over in a minute. And I tell you what, it isn't easy for these moto pilots either. They simply can't. They burn out clutches, they destroy gearboxes, they topple over. Controlling a great big motorcycle here is very, very difficult indeed. No cars allowed up here, just mechanics on the back of bikes, as you can see. And Pozzovivo looks comfortable, just tapping away, sighting through every corner. And Kreuziger in trouble here, Dan.
Yeah, he must have gone too deep. I was just about to say, actually, all you can do on a climb like this really is just go at your own pace. There's not that much of an advantage to sitting on somebody's wheel here, except maybe psychological, because obviously not much wind in your face when you're going this slow. So best to go at your own pace and not blow up, which is what Kreuziger looks like he's done. Must have gone into the red slightly, trying to follow Pozzovivo and paying for it just slightly now. I'm sure he'll recover soon.
Well, how do you? Yeah, that's the point. I mean, how do you get back from that sort of situation? Because all of a sudden everything goes, doesn't it? There's no possible way of continuing that sort of pace. And how do you get your forces back together?
Well, it's difficult. There's no respite on a climb like we're seeing here. So he's already in his easiest gear, as we can see, despite the fact that it is a much easier gear than they'd normally use on their bikes. Mechanics having changed them overnight, but he's almost being caught by Rujano now. So he's paying for his effort of staying with Pozzovivo, and just goes to show how well this guy on the front's going.
Domenico Pozzovivo, former teammate of Emanuele Sella, who is of course now a teammate of Rujano, has been one of the small, shall we say, not small, the operative word, domestic stars in Italy for a number of years now. He's been threatening to do something big in the races on the climbs, but this is the big problem with Pozzovivo. This is his métier, and nothing else really is. He's not fantastic at holding his position in a peloton. We saw that when the Giro started in Rotterdam a few years ago. He was just all over the shop. When the crosswinds came along, he was blown to bits. His team couldn't support him, and he crashed out. And against the clock, he doesn't have the ability to ride against the clock hard. In a situation like this, he's awesome to watch. But Rujano now catches Roman Kreuziger. Kreuziger's going to see Rujano go past him. He's going to know that that's not unusual. But Pozzovivo needs to put a bit more in here. The others are still hanging on within reach. If Pozzovivo can open up any more of a gap, he should do. because Damiano Cunego is got him within the sights, and he's not losing too many seconds to him.
After an emphatic victory against Austria, Judy Murray's Great Britain now face a playoff for a place in World Group 2. The Fed Cup, Sweden versus Great Britain, starts Saturday 1 p.m. live on British Eurosport 2.
Complete sports coverage of the major stories and results with Eurosport Action on demand. All online at yahoo.eurosport.com.
Один. Go. Один. Go. Один. Go. Один. Один.
Welcome back. This is stage 3 of the Giro del Trentino, and Domenico Pozzovivo still sits in the saddle and twiddles away at the front, but he's only got about 20 bike lengths or so over Damiano Cunego, who looks best placed at the moment of the GC contenders. Just behind is José Rujano, a little Venezuelan, with Roman Kreuziger here. What can Pozzovivo do? Just ride at his own pace, Dan, because at the moment he's not making enough of a gap to really shake things up.
No, Szmyd behind him is actually behind him overall on GC, another rider who lost out yesterday. There's a few teams actually who've lost out quite a lot. Androni in particular only had one guy in the front group yesterday, and 3 of them behind chasing and coming in around about a minute and 10 seconds down. It was the same really with Liquigas. They did have a number of people in the front group, but looking at today, Capecchi was their leader yesterday over the line, or the first placed rider over the line, and he's nowhere to be seen today. Schmidt's obviously going the best, and really should have been in that front group yesterday. We were saying about how it was a big opportunity for the likes of Szmyd, because Basso's not on top form yet, and they were given a bit of a free roll, and if he had been there, he would he'd be right up there on GC now. But as it is, a minute and 25 seconds down on Mathias Frank.
Yep, 125 down on Frank, who is not in our shot at the moment, but looks as though Cunego is beginning to be caught little bit by by José Rujano and Roman Kreuziger again. Now this is a battle within a battle here now, Dan, isn't it? Because we had Pozzovivo, who's trying to ride away. Oh, it looks like he's dropped Szmyd. Trying to ride away towards a good GC place, having missed out on positioning yesterday. Rujano missed out on positioning yesterday. And there's a whole fist of riders you'd expect to perhaps see up close towards the front that aren't here at the moment. There's no sign at the moment of Jean Gadret. Gadret's just been blown out of the water completely off the back. There's no Paolo Tiralongo to help Roman Kreuziger. Betancur has been suffering. He's down the hill. Pretty much nobody from the Colombia team, who's I think their motto is passionate about climbing, and there is nowhere near the front here.
Well, then they came over to Europe at the start of this season. I think everybody well, at least I was expecting big things from them as soon as the road kind of tilted upwards at any stage race like this, particularly on a steep climb. It's what the Colombians are known for and what they kind of enjoy. But we saw a glimpse of one of them towards the lower slopes of this climb. Not seen anyone since, although to be honest, we've only really got pictures of the first 7 or 8 or so riders, which are already, you know, quite large gaps opening up. They don't look like large gaps, but 20 bike lengths when they're going at this speed is a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, it is indeed. Darwin Atapuma was the one guy who managed to cling on to them from the Colombia Col Deportes squad. Claudio Corti, the veteran team director from Italy, looking after that team. And when they came and recce'd this course, they had a bit of a chat from Gilberto Simoni, no stranger to these sorts of climbs. But it doesn't seem to have done them an awful lot of good. Cunego is beginning to really suffer here. And slowly and surely, José Rujano and Roman Kreuziger are eating up the distance between themselves and the back wheel of the Italian Cunego. Wants the bike to get past.
He wants to see what kind of gap he's got to these following riders and who it is, and they are gradually pulling him back. At the moment, he's still in a very strong position now in terms of the race overall. He's the best out of the ones that we've seen. Kreuziger's still 7 seconds behind him.
Yep, there's a bit of discussion going on with the Lamprey mechanic here on the bike on the right-hand side, and the mechanic himself was having some sort of discussion with one of the commissaires on another of the bikes. Rujano, has he dropped Kreuziger again? He has. Kreuziger has held on as long as he possibly can. He's gone again down.
Yeah, he's still trying to go at his own pace. He's not too far behind Cunego, and you know, there's still a bit of time over the top. It doesn't actually finish on the top of this climb. They've got a couple of, well, in fact, it starts to flatten out with around about 1 kilometre to go to the top here, and then there's a downhill which is apparently just as narrow as this climb here, so not as easy as it looks on the map when you first see it, and a slight false flat to the finish. So it's as I said, it doesn't finish on the top, so Kreuziger, as long as he's within touching distance, he's got a chance to come back, but the bonus seconds are going to be very important when it comes to the GC here.
Oh, I've got to be so careful, these motos, with both Damiano Cunego and José Rujano in amongst them, as Domenico Pozzovivo continues on. The one possible glimmer here of making some time back on Pozzovivo for Damiano Cunego especially is that when they do get to the top of this climb, as Dan was saying, it levels out a bit, and there's a very narrow descent to the final little dig up towards the top, the finish. Not the top of the GPM here, the mountains classification, but the end of the stage. And Cunego is a lot better on that sort of terrain than Pozzovivo is. He may well be able to claw back a number of seconds on Pozzovivo, even for the stage win. If when we get to that situation, Pozzovivo is really in the zone here, though.
It's relentless, isn't it, this climb?
I don't remember seeing any. This is one of the worst climbs I think I've ever seen. I would say this is as bad as the Zoncolan for sure. And you can see a lot more on it, actually. You can see a lot further down the road than you can on the Zoncolan sometimes as a viewer. And I would say this is nastier. The road is much narrower, and well, as narrow and narrower in places, and the surface is appalling at times.
Gap starting to open up there to Kreuziger that we can see in the picture. I don't know what, it's only kind of 25 bike lengths, but it looks like a good kind of 15 seconds at the speed that they're going. It'd be good to get a time gap actually to Pozzovivo and see exactly how far in front of the following two riders he is.
Set your stopwatch. That's all we can do, really. We're not getting much information from race radio or from the on-screen graphics as Rujano goes past Cunego. He's got himself into his own rhythm, and he's now riding away a little bit from the front wheel of Damiano Cunego. That's good riding by José Rujano. He's gathered his forces again, and he went on the attack about a third of the way up the climb down, and just went a bit too deep, and that miscalculated.
Yeah, it's interesting to see actually the bad patches that even these top riders go through. They're sort of yo-yoing a little bit. It's only really Pozzovivo that's cracked on from the start and not really let up at all, and no one really catching him. But Cunego looked in a bad state for a while, and he kind of just been caught by Rujano. Kreuziger was with Rujano, looking quite good to catch Cunego, and just went again into the red a little bit. And as you said, on a climb like this, if you do go into the red just slightly, you pay for it so much, because there's no respite. There's no way you can you know, get the speed up a little bit on a slightly false flat or flatter section. That's the first we've seen of an AG2R rider, actually. They had a strength in numbers yesterday, 5 in that front group, and looks like Dupont.
Yeah, that looks like Dupont. Rangy, very slim, very slender rider. Certainly not Gadre. He's far more hunched over the, or generally far more hunched over the bars. Wider on the shoulder, Gadre, and muscles the bike about a bit. This is Rujano. Pozzovivo still sitting in the saddle. Now, what's the gap back to José Rujano is the question. But you saw from that big overhead shot with the helicopter just how big the gaps are now between Domenico Pozzovivo, this man here, José Rujano, back to Cunego, Kreuziger, then back to Mathias Frank. You're looking at 40 to 50 seconds. Even that short distance, it's so steep. I would suggest that the race leader has lost the best part of 50 seconds already. That's not Serpa. Because there is your leader on the road.
That's Kreuziger.
Oh, it was Serpa, was it? Yeah.
Focused in on him for some reason, but yeah, some really big gaps opening up now. It did take a lot longer actually than we were expecting for them to open up, but now the road's kicked up and been steep for so long. There's some huge gaps in terms of time on the road here now.
Yeah, my mistake. José Serpa, indeed.
It's almost off-road here, isn't it?
This is great. This is more your métier. You'd like this, wouldn't you?
Except for the gradient, it is, yeah.
Indeed.
I'd go down here quite fast.
Yes. And there is Rujano with Cunego. José Serpa, by the way, the other man they were focusing on who I failed to spot because I was so concentrating on seeing what the gap was to the rider in front, that he's won at Genting Highlands, remember? That relentlessly long climb in the Tour of Langkawi. He's never really broken through to the top level, although I think he has the talent to do so. We'll have to take a short break. Back soon.
The third and final Ardennes Classic, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's all about climbing the heights.
Would he have enough gas to get to the top by himself?
And rewarding aggression.
Oh, that's a great ride.
Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Sunday at 1:15 p.m. live on Eurosport HD and 2 p.m. on British Eurosport.
Damiano Cunego relentlessly plugging away through this long, dreadful climb up the Punta Veleno. He won't have time to look around and see how beautiful the trees are coming into bud in spring here. He'll just be worried about when the hell it finishes, frankly.
Not seen much of Szmyd since the lower slopes when he was looking pretty strong. Another guy that must have gone into the red slightly and paying for that now. I haven't seen him for a long time.
He's gone a long way into the red. Judging by the distance, you can see physically the gap between Rujano here and then Damiano Cunego behind him. He's putting every pedal stroke he's putting distance into. Very impressive ride by Roman Kreuziger. Kreuziger, one of the bigger men here in the peloton. He's quite a tall chap. He's about 5'11". And
on a moto, it's just
well, somebody just tipped over,
tipping over on the hairpin there.
Well, that's one of the big problems with this sort of
there's
ride.
Szmyd. Just haven't seen anything of him. He's still between Pozzovivo in the front and Rujano, who's actually in third place. So Szmyd doing a really good ride. We haven't seen much of him. They must not have enough cameras on the road. But it would be good to get some time gap so we could see exactly how far Pozzovivo is in front.
Well, let's hope we get a very wide shot here from the helicopter.
He's doing a great ride.
Pozzovivo.
That's a big gap.
That's a huge gap. And now we've already suggested that Szmyd is possibly in the middle of these guys, and Rujano behind him. And that's a big gap, Dan. I mean, if you can't see somebody coming around the corner. There's Sylvester Szmyd just coming around the corner now. And José Rujano, how much down is he on Szmyd? what?
Fair way, and I'd suggest that Pozzovivo must be a good 40-50 seconds ahead of Cunego at least. And bearing in mind, Cunego, if he stays in his current position of around about 4th on the road, isn't going to pick up any time bonuses. Pozzovivo is going to take the 10 seconds presumably at the finish today, so it could be right back in it for the GC.
Pozzovivo started the day 1 minute 3 seconds down on Mathias Frank, but more to the point, 53 seconds down on Damiano Cunego. And I would think, actually, we don't have those time gaps, but and it's very difficult to tell, but an estimate, it must be pretty much bang on that now, I would think.
It looks around about that to me. We haven't had enough shots to really get the stopwatch going and time these riders back from each other, but if you can't see somebody on a long straight road that's that steep, the gap's got to be fairly big.
It's got to be 30 to 40 seconds between Szmyd or 30 seconds between Szmyd and Cunego. You can see behind there, and Schmidt's a fair old way down still on Domenico Pozzovivo. He's really digging in hard here, Szmyd. Szmyd, who won his first real major stage in the Dauphiné, where you have to say Alejandro Valverde pretty much gifted him the stage, but he still took him by surprise. He didn't really know what to do. In fact, he didn't know what to do when Valverde very kindly, I guess, if you look at it that way, started fiddling with the gears and looking down at his rear derailleur as if he'd had a problem, and Szmyd didn't know what to do.
It almost looked like he wanted to stop and help him with his derailleur.
He did.
Domestique that he is.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he had this instinctive thing, oh, I'll wait for you. No, hang on a minute, no. Yeah. But he took the win. What was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, he took the win, and he just completely blew him away. Had to get himself back together again to get up there. Domenico Pozzovivo, he's looked in control all the way from the bottom. He didn't panic when José Rujano went. He just sat in behind this man here, Szmyd, and Rujano, and let him set the pace. And so far, it's paying off for him in absolute spades, Dan, because there's nobody can match him.
Well, already 20 seconds gone by since Pozzovivo went around that hairpin, and that's to Szmyd, who's just coming up to it now. So around 25. About 35 seconds, I think, to Szmyd, and then another handful of seconds to Rujano, and then Cunego behind. So I'm sure Cunego will get a couple of seconds back over the top here and on the way into the finish. But again, as I said, no bonus seconds probably for him in the way things look at the moment. So going to be very, very close for the GC at the finish.
Yep, at the moment it's looking like about a minute between himself, Cunego that is, and up ahead Domenico Pozzovivo. As we've said, one glimmer of hope is that the little bit of descent that they come off the top of this mountain here before they run up again towards the finish may play into the hands of Damiano Cunego. If he's got anything in the tank whatsoever, he will give it absolutely everything he can at that point, because he can get past Rujano, which would take him into 3rd spot, and he'd get some bonus seconds. And he could also limit his losses against this man here. He could take back a few more seconds against Pozzovivo and get the bonus seconds. I would, if I was Damiano Cunego, I'd be thinking that I'm gonna push over the top here.
Yeah, but first of all, I'm sure he's thinking just get over the top in the first place.
Exactly, yeah.
It's they've got a little bit further to go on the climb than I actually thought. It's not slacking off at all yet, so it must still be a number of kilometres still to go. It's still looking really steep there as we see Dupont just going around this hairpin.
There's Serpa.
Really a climb where every man is for himself up here. I can just imagine the speed that the Gruppetto must be crawling up here a bit later on today.
Yes, I'd be very interested to see what the gap is between the winner of the stage today and the final man on the road.
Yeah.
Many, many minutes, I would say. Szmyd just has that look of absolute resignation, going, what am I going to do? What can I do here? There's a mixture of desperation and anger and that sort of resignation on his face, thinking, I'm not going to be able to get up there any quicker than I possibly can. I've got to keep plugging away. Gaps finally being shown. 32 seconds back to here, then 32 seconds back again. So we're over the minute mark between Pozzovivo and Damiano Cunego. Mathias Frank The overnight leader here has with him Marco Pinotti just ahead of him. And it's an impressive ride by Mathias Frank. He's a good climber, not an excellent climber. Almost came a cropper then, trying to change gear. But a good ride by him, trying to limit his losses. Pride as much as anything drives you on in these situations.
Well, you can't ever give up when you're in the leader's jersey of a race. You know, it's a prestigious race. A lot of very, very good winners of this race over the years. Pinotti doing a good job for him. He's I'm sure paced himself very well, sort of known as an intelligent rider in the peloton. Uses his power a lot and looks at the power during stages as well. So he'll have been pacing himself up and making sure that he didn't go into the red. It's just why he's gradually catching people up on the road and now pacing his teammate up, who looks to be struggling slightly.
Dave Quinn asking, what average speed are they going up this mountain? Slow. I think it's probably the answer to that. I don't know, but it's not very quick, is it?
I reckon around about 14 kilometers an hour at the most. I might be wrong. I'd be around about 10 k's an hour, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, 14 kilometers an hour, 10 miles an hour, just over. Even that is just, when you think of it, all those amateurs out there who go up their local steep hill and it doesn't go 10 kilometers, if it gets to 15% at any point, just think what sort of speed you're going at. And these guys are doing it over 10k.
That's the thing. I mean, there's plenty of roads in Britain here that go up to 15%, but they're so short you can, you can put it in the small ring and sprint over them, or grind over them if they're slightly longer. But 8 kilometers like that, as we've said, it's just relentless and so steep. It doesn't really show it, I don't think, very well on the TV pictures here. But if these riders that are so small, like Pozzovivo here, going that slow up the climb, you can only imagine what the likes of Finney, who's 80+ kilos, is going to be feeling up here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is getting towards the top now for Domenico Pozzovivo at the top of this climb. You can see how it's shallowing out just a little bit. This is the point where Pozzovivo has got to push on, and Cunego too, if he's got anything left in the tank, will have to try and up the pace a bit to pull back José Rujano. He's got the chance of getting a few bonus seconds. There will be 4 available for him. And of course he's got to limit his losses against the man up the road, Domenico Pozzovivo. Sylvester Szmyd behind Pozzovivo on the GC this morning, 1 minute and 25 seconds. Looking through the trees, that looks like Gadre. Nope.
I think you're right.
Is it?
Basso there pacing Capecchi up.
This is way down the slopes now. Minutes and minutes back. Well, the blossoms out on the trees. It's a beautiful climb to be able to watch on the television, isn't it? But absolutely brutal to be climbing as riders.
I wonder how long before this climb features in the Giro.
Not that long, one wouldn't think. Top of the mountain is at 1 kilometer for Domenico Pozzovivo. Well, the big thing, of course, will be see what the descent is like here coming down the other side, because that's what really limits climbs as to whether they get put into the Giro or not, or any of the Grand Tours. As if they are very, very precipitous descents and generally dangerous, then there's a lot of hoo-ha created. It's not so much the climb itself, although riders don't look forward to it.
It's the space as well for all the vehicles that you need to get up for the big Grand Tour. So many more production TV vehicles, team vehicles than you get at these slightly smaller races. They need quite a big area at the top, but it is still very narrow here. I think it averages about 3% over the top of the climb here, and never going to have a full bunch going down here though, luckily.
No, absolutely not. Well, that's the other thing, of course. You can count on the fact that on a climb like this, they're going to be coming overs in 1s and 2s. But as you say, Dan, I mean, getting trucks up there, impossible. You've got to get to the finish by another way. Wow, just look how narrow that is. That's amazing.
That's a big drop down the side from the looks of it.
It's a good job they're not coming down that way. Well, they might be in a minute. Let's have a look. Yes, this is shades of things we've seen. But they've got the catch netting up on that corner because there isn't anything to stop them. Very much like they did in the Giro last year, but the top of the GPM coming up. And now the descent, this very narrow little descent. Still some kilometres to go to the finish, couple of kilometres to go. Domenico Pozzovivo spent his entire career here as he goes over the top of the mountain and down the other side. Look at this! You can bet your bottom dollar he's come out here to recce this course, Pozzovivo. As have the rest of the team. He's made his entire career in Italy, being a climbing star. Started off with the Penaria Ceramica squad and then went to CSF, and now of course that's the Colnago CSF squad, and they will be extremely pleased. Szmyd goes over the top second. This is where Pozzovivo isn't quite so comfortable. Thankfully, there's not too much of a distance to go.
It's fast though, much faster than I was expecting down the other side. I mean, the percentages, oh actually no, I'm wrong, 14.8% at the top, 10.8% just after, so yeah, much steeper than I realised, and it's just going to be like that for another kilometre or so, and then at the end just rises up 4% for 500 metres, and the last 500 metres to the finish is 1%. So he needs to really carry on pushing on Pozzovivo and make sure that time gap stays at least where it was over the top of the climb, and then he's got every chance of going into this leader's jersey from the gaps that we saw earlier.
Well, we're going to watch it because Pozzovivo is not the best of descenders, and he's looks in control at the moment, sprinting out of the corner, the road widening out at this point. This will suit him a little bit better, but this is where Cunego has to really push on and try and bring back José Rujano to get those extra seconds and limit his losses against this man here. We haven't seen much of Damiano Cunego in the last 10 minutes or so. We've seen Sylvester Szmyd go over the top. Here he is. Szmyd is possibly a slightly better descender than Pozzovivo. Just look at the way he goes around the corner. And can he see Pozzovivo ahead? Well, he probably will be able to here because it's a wide open mountain meadow. 1 kilometre to go for Domenico Pozzovivo. He's not going to lose the victory today, but it's all a question of how many seconds. Szmyd gives it everything he can, puts it in the biggest gear he's got at this point. No, gear he can push. And he's not too far behind now. No, he's carried a lot more momentum up to this point as well than Pozzovivo did. He must be going a lot quicker on the side. I was looking at the gearing of Pozzovivo and wondering if he actually had a compact on. He was completely spinning out his gear, and sometimes if you want a really small chainring on the inside, you're not able to put the normal 53 tooth on the outside. It looks to be the case with Pozzovivo's down. Maybe with Szmyd, he's some of these chain rings, or sorry, should I say cranks, you can put the big ring on and have a very small inner ring. So maybe that's the case for Liquigas, but the gap didn't look to me quite so big as it was over the top of the climb. Definitely not. No, I think that's the case. Pozzovivo is always likely to lose a little bit of time on that. And the Liquigas rider Sylvester Szmyd is pushing on a lot harder. It's more his sort of style. Keep your eye on the clock in the left-hand corner. 4 hours, 4 minutes. They've been in the saddle just over, as Domenico Pozzovivo has 150 meters to go. Szmyd, on the other hand, will be absolutely in the saddle, completely flat out. If we get a shot of him, we're not going to get it at the moment because there's only 50 meters to go for Domenico Pozzovivo. Fantastic win for him, having missed out yesterday. Pozzovivo takes the stage, but will he take the leader's pink jersey? This is the question. 30 seconds, 4:04:30. For Pozzovivo. Only 18 seconds I make it back to Szmyd. And Cunego has indeed gone past José Rujano, has he? They're focusing on him, so you would suggest that Rujano is not ahead of him, and he's done that on the descent here. Again, though, he looks like he's pushing a smaller gear. Out of the saddle, we could see, if we see up ahead, nope, he's definitely gone past Rujano, so he's done exactly what we said he needed to do, and push hard over the top. 50 seconds at the moment, 1:52.
Pozzovivo's got it, my calculations.
Yep, Pozzovivo has it. It's over a minute, and that's the minute mark, plus there's 10 seconds bonus for Pozzovivo, 4 seconds bonus for this man, but over the minute mark, Damiano Cunego fails to take the leader's jersey, and Pozzovivo will put it on. There's Rujano, minute and 15 back on Domenico Pozzovivo. So a great ride by the little Italian. First of the AG Tour riders, Dupont coming in towards the finish. This is Roman Kreuziger digging deep, deep, deep for a big man. That was a very good ride. Very good ride indeed. And this is a good ride too. But underestimated as a rider, I think, Hubert Dupont.
Yeah, I was an amateur with him back in the day in 2001 and 2, I think it was, when he was with Vis-la-Pomme Marseille. I was in a team in Clermont-Ferrand and raced against him quite a lot, and he's been gradually progressing, as you said, since then, and has pulled out some pretty big results. He seems to like it over here in Italy, but he's done a good ride there today. But as you said, Pozzovivo, fantastic ride. He was my favourite from the start of the race, and I thought he'd let it all go yesterday, but pulled it back. Really good ride.
Driving as hard for the line as possible. José Serpa in the Androni kits, just being out-sprinted a little bit, is he, by Carlos Betancur. Betancur comes in outside the top 5, I think, Betancur this time around. Mathias Frank, the race leader, comes in 3 minutes down, nearly, well, 2.5 minutes down, actually, on Domenico Pozzovivo. There's the first of our Colombia Col Deportes rider. That'll probably be Atapuma. They're just scattered all over the hill. They're everywhere. And as you say, Dan, on a climb like this, just every man for himself, isn't it? There's no real teamwork other than the fact that if you've got a team leader or a major player or a race leader, so on, who's really, really suffering, then you just stay with them if you can't go any faster.
Yeah, the teamwork was all really done on the run-up into the climb and earlier on in the stage. Colnago thinning the group down over the penultimate GPM, just so that it was a bit easier for Pozzovivo to position himself, although we didn't see him really in the top 30 at the start of the climb. He made his way up, and I guess the only advantage of that is he didn't go the wrong way at the bottom, as a couple of the others did.
Pierre Roland, winner at Alpe d'Huez last year, comes over at 4 minutes, or 3 3/4 minutes down, nearly, on the winner today, Domenico Pozzovivo. There's Gadre. And Colnago bringing another rider home.
Yeah, they've got a number of riders still near the front here. They must be close to AG2R now, who were leading the team competition overnight.
Yes, they've certainly got more than AG2R over in the first 10 to 15 riders here. They are absolutely everywhere.
I think it'll be close. Oh no, that's Gadre there,
That's Gadre, yeah.
I thought that was the third one, but he's the second rider, is he, from AG2R?
Yeah, Dupont first, Gadre second as far as AG2R go. Marc de Maar.
He's riding well.
Isn't he just now? He is one of the biggest men in the peloton for this race, and to come in at what, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, 4 3/4 minutes down. There's Basso coming over, 4 3/4 minutes down on a rider the size of Pozzovivo on a slope like that. Isn't too bad, one has to say. Sildrez comes over with Ivan Basso and Eros Capecchi. That's a magnificent finish. That was a magnificent hill, actually. I mean, it's not it's not the nicest of things to ride up if you're a rider, one has to say. Can you imagine doing this as an unfit amateur like me? I mean, it just would be horrendous. But even so, it makes great television.
It does. It doesn't really inspire attacking, because, as you said, you just got to go at your own pace pretty much from the bottom, which is what Pozzovivo did, and exactly what he needed to do if he wanted to create the big time gaps that he has done. But yeah, I don't think you need to include a climb like this every day, but every so often on a race like Trentino, or maybe one stage at a Giro, it does make a great spectacle.
It's great for viewers as well to be able to see that there are distinct differences between riders. So often you don't get the extremes of parkour to show exactly what some of these guys are great at. when you see a great flat team time trial course, you see how good certain teams are, like Garmin, Barracuda, like Nissan Trek are at, and Liquid Gas, of course, at team time trials. When you see a slope like this, which is just brutal, you get to see what real pure climbers are like.
Yeah, for me, that's one of the best parts of our sport, is that it's, you know, there's something for everyone. You've got the likes of Pozzovivo, and he can stand next to Johan van Someren and say, well, we're both very successful at the same sport, which is, you know, incredible, really. And you need stages that are suited to all these different types of riders. And as I said from the very beginning, this stage and the steepness of this climb really suited to the lighter the better, basically. And you can't really get much lighter than Pozzovivo and Rujano.
Rujano, good ride or not for him, you think?
Not for him, no.
No.
I mean, we've seen him a couple of times at the Giro when he's been on really good form. I think, you know, last year he was one of the few that really stayed with Contador on a few of the climbs towards the end of the stages, but not quite on that form just yet. But he's still got a couple of weeks, is it, or 10 days to go before the start of that race.
Yep. True enough. Be nice to see if José Rujano ever gets back to his magnificent best, where he almost stole the Giro on his debut. When he's back within the fold, so to speak, in Androni, which was at the time the Selle Italia squad. They pretty much kept the same sort of kit, but Gianni Savio, the director sportif, has brought him back into the mold. Seems to be getting back together. Savio knows how to handle riders from Latin America mainly. He's had a lot of them and knows how to bring out the best of them. Pozzovivo wins 23 seconds to Szmyd, 1:12 to Cunego. Kreuziger 1:46. Dupont, good ride by him.
Good ride from Huzarski as well, the NetApp rider in 7th place. They're really showing that they deserve this place as a wild card of the Giro.
There you go. That shows you how small Domenico Pozzovivo is. The podium girl on the left-hand side, who is on the 3rd step of the podium, is taller than, or just about the same height as Domenico Pozzovivo, who is on the top step. And there we go.
And he's got heels on.
And he's got heels on, and she's got flats on. Amazing. Don't stand on the. They've been given instructions, obviously. Don't stand on the top step with him, because you'll swamp him. Marvellous ride from Domenico Pozzovivo. Started his career, as I said, with the Ceramica Planaria squad, the Navigare squad as it was. They had that bright orange kit, do you remember? And then
Brett Lancaster, a couple of the Australians,
that's right,
for that. For that team.
Brett won the Giro Prologue wearing one of those big orange jerseys, I seem to remember.
Yeah, the 1K Prologue, was it?
Well, yeah, 1.1 or something, 1.14. The one where Stuart O'Grady rode it on fixed, because he thought there was no point in riding anything else at that point as a track man. Pozzovivo then, it leads overall by 25 seconds from Damiano Cunego. Sylvester Szmyd is at 49, Kreuziger at 50. Mathias Frank, excellent ride by Mathias Frank to limit his losses. He's now 5th overall at 1:42. Huzarski is at 1:48. Pinotti at 1:51. Hubert Dupont rises to 10th overall, 2:06. It's not over yet, because tomorrow we have a massive finish again up the Passo Pordoi, which is one of the legendary climbs of the Giro d'Italia. So it's not safe for Pozzovivo yet, but he wins by a country mile today. Well, you could look down that particular shot for the next 2 hours, and there'll be riders coming up. Frapporti, best young rider in the centre there. Sorry, on the right-hand side takes the sprints. Betancur in the middle, best young rider. And Domenico Pozzovivo leads overall. Will he be able to hang on to it tomorrow? This is the big thing. Will Daniel be right? We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.